Hello, this is another one of my videos on Shaykhism, this one dealing with Denis MacEoin's account of Shaykh Ahmad's doctrinal views. It comes from a long essay that Denis contributed to the Encyclopædia Iranica on Shaykh Ahmad Asari and is available both in print and online. As I mentioned in the previous videos on Shaykh Ahmad, apart from his contributions to the Encyclopædia Iranica on Shaykhism, Denis has also written a useful essay, Early Shaykhi Reactions to the Bab and His Claims, which was published way back in 1982. I'll give the link below in the notes. First point to make is that actually many of the doctrinal statements from Shaykh Ahmad are quite similar to those of conventional Shi'ism, and so you get statements on divine unity, on divine justice, on prophethood, on the imamate and resurrection, which are all quite similar to what you might find in the Shi'i mainstream. Thus we have the view that religious obligations enable people to be worthy of eternal bliss, and this leads us to recognize God as an uncreated creator and his attributes, to recognize divine justice, the prophethood of Muhammad and of all the prophets, and of the station of the imams, and of the coming of to life on the day of judgment. In relation to the doctrine of Tawheed, divine unity or unicity, God is pre-existent, eternal, alive and knowing. His knowledge is of two kinds, eternal and created. He is all-powerful and a free agent. He is single in his essence, attributes, acts and worship. His will and speech are attributes of his action and not of his essence. In relationship to divine justice, concept of Adl, divine justice is the opposite of tyranny. God does not impose obligations beyond what man can endure. Humans are possessed of free will and are the performer of their own actions, but God preserves and provides assistance for these. People are not divinely compelled in their actions, but neither do they have absolute independence. In relationship to prophethood, God cannot be comprehended, and thus men cannot derive the teachings of religion directly from him. Therefore he sends prophets to each nation according to their differing needs. These are mediators who know God through revelation and convey to men those matters which are conducive to their welfare. This process ended with Muhammad as seal of the prophets. Amongst Muhammad's miracles is the Quran, which cannot be imitated and will never be abrogated. And then on the imamate. In the absence of the prophet, there must be a successor who will stand in his place to execute his laws and preserve his sharia. The Qa'im is Muhammad ibn Hassan Askari, who is alive and will appear and fill the earth with justice. Then in terms of resurrection and judgment, there is another world to which all return to receive their reward and punishment. When we die, souls are of three kinds: those of pure belief, those of pure unbelief, and those who are neither, being weak. At the resurrection, the souls of men will return to their bodies, as in this world. All things will be resurrected, even animals, trees, and stones. Given that the views summarized so far were fairly conventional, what was distinctive about Shaykh Ahmad's teachings? First, we should start with the accusations of the original Takfir by Bālāsarī that Shaykh Ahmad's views on the resurrection, on the Prophet's night journey, and on the nature of the imams were erroneous. Secondly, we have Shaykh Ahmad's concepts of non-elemental bodies of the interworld, which are distinctive. And then we have his views on the nature of divine knowledge. Many other accusations of heretical and quasi-heretical doctrines were added by his opponents, particularly after his death. But these, for the most part, are fairly dubious and not to be taken as part of what he was teaching. Let's start with his concept of non-elemental bodies. This is one of the most distinctive of his ideas. It's difficult to summarize his views as they're subject to different interpretations, but briefly he held that human beings possess four bodies: a body of flesh subject to the ravages of time and which decomposes after death, an invisible spiritual body which is the reality of man and in which the individual is resurrected and enters paradise or hell, an astral body which is abandoned at the first blast of the final trumpet, and a celestial archetypal body. The fleshly and astral bodies are not, according to Shaykh Ahmad, an essential part of the individual human's reality. As Asai's views on resurrection were based on this complex framework, they were readily seen as going against traditional beliefs, and as such, as unacceptable to his enemies. As to Asai's views of the Prophet's night journey, this was interpreted as being made in the Prophet's subtle form, after he temporarily cast aside his purely elemental body for the duration of the journey. Again, a view going against traditional beliefs. For MacEoin, this was Asai's most original contribution to Shi'i metaphysics, and it was also, of course, the primary cause for Baragani's protest against his views. Then we have the concept of the interworld. For Asai, there's an interworld between the earth and the heavenly kingdom. This is the Ghaliyah, and it's the world of images and forms wherein the hidden imam dwells prior to his return, and it plays a key role in many of his other concepts. For more details, there's another essay I recently discovered by Denis on Cosmogony and Cosmology in Shaykhism, also in the Iranica. I'll give the details for that below. Then we have his views on the imams. For Asai, the imams are the four causes of creation: active, in that they are the locations of the divine will; material, in that all things have been created from the rays of their lights; formal, in that God created the forms of all creatures from the lights of their forms; and final, in that God created all things for them. However, Shaykh Ahmad explicitly denied that his views were those of Shi'i extremism, the Qulat. Then in relationship to divine knowledge, for Asai, God possessed two kinds of knowledge, eternal and created. Eternal knowledge is part of the divine essence and cannot be separate from it. Created knowledge, which only comes into being when its object comes into existence, is something different and is not part of God's essence. So, many thanks to you for listening, and particular thanks to my patrons for their kind support and encouragement. Without them, I wouldn't be able to make these videos. You're very welcome to support my channel if you wish to. Please do like, comment and share on the videos. It really does help. Subscribe if you want to be notified of future videos. I'll give Patreon and PayPal links below if you want to provide practical support. Next week, we'll move on to a different essay in the Iranica on the life of Sayyid Kazem Rushdie. Have a good day.